Hello everyone and welcome back to another YouTube cast for myself, Wardy. Today we have another match from the Alpha X Ultimate Showdown, similar to the one that we casted yesterday. This is from the other group because from the first group that I was casting yesterday a little bit, the next set of games that I wanted to cast were really long. So I figured we'd jump over to this group because I don't quite have time this morning because I'm going to stream soon. So that's what's basically going on. So that's why we've kind of switched up players a lot and so on. So let's jump into this. In the bottom right hand side, the blue Zerg player RagnaroK from Chivo Esports has been on a tear lately. Really rocking it in GSL, has really just been looking really good. He's become, out of nowhere this year almost, one of the best Zergs in Korea, if not top 5, I would say. That's just how good he became this year so quickly. Started Katowice, went from there. As to the top left-hand side, one of the best Protoss players in the world. Our red Protoss from Makers is classic. And a lot of drama around him, surrounding his attempts to go to BlizzCon, but being blocked by the Korean military service because he is of 29 years of age, if I'm not mistaken, and that means he can't leave Korea without doing his military service. However, he is asking, obviously, special permissions, and so it is thought, and obviously we'll see if he does get to go to BlizzCon or not. So this is a PvZ, a little bit of a different matchup why I chose this one today as well. I feel like we haven't cast a PvZ for the YouTube in a little while. So if you do enjoy it, as always, you know what I'm going to say. Hit that like button, comment down below which other series you would like to see. And also don't forget that you can subscribe to the channel as well. I was looking at my subscriber analytics earlier today. Little story for you guys just before we jump into this PvZ. And I was looking at my subscriber analytics, and it was like % of subscribers which have subscribed to you and turned on notifications, and it was like 4%. I was like, well, you know, that doesn't seem so bad. And right next to it is this big red sign that says most YouTube channels have 30 to 40%. And I'm like, oh, not doing so hot there, are we? So if you do enjoy the content, do consider subscribing, obviously, and you know, if you don't already have the little bell turned on to get notifications when we upload, do consider turning that on. Obviously, we only upload once a day nowadays, and so you don't get spammed or anything like that. We'll just let you know when the hottest new StarCraft content around is up, so check that out as we jump into this. And focus up on the builds, because we do see a pneumatized carapace first year out of RagnaroK. That's something we have seen more and more of over the last little while. Just Zerg players really saying, okay, you know what, you made it cheaper, I'll build it then, go on. It is very good. It is very useful early game, and yes, it does take up some gas, etc., but it keeps you so safe, and you know exactly what's coming from the opponent pretty much throughout the entirety of the game because of it. So it's a very good investment, as we do have that Adept of Classic making its way over the right hand side. Is going to hop up and is straight away going to run into a Queen, which is going to then force that Adept back just a little bit here. An Overlord from RagnaroK moves into the main base. The Phoenix there from Classic going to be looking to hunt it down. Phoenix first, because I guess Overlord speed, maybe you want to push those Overlords away quite quick rather than going straight in towards an Oracle. So we'll see what Classic does go for from here, because obviously there's a lot of different choices in terms of how many Oracles you make in PvZ and how aggressive that can allow you to be, and how, you know, what you might do as a follow-up, etc. as well. So there are absolutely a few choices coming up here for Classic to make, and we'll keep an eye on that. For now, the Phoenix is just trying to hunt down an Overlord, and he will find one in the top right. If you get in range of the Overlord with the Phoenix, you will stay in range of it. And by the way, this is only going to be one Oracle, 2 Oracles at most, because he already dropped the Robo. So he's going to go into, well, at least a Prism, right? We'll apply some pressure. We'll obviously be able to produce an Immortal as well. Typically, though, what you do from here is you get the Robo and the Twilight Council, and there is the Twilight Council coming down as well. Robo and the Twilight Council, and just go into an Archon drop. It's very standard. Quite quick, because you only made 1 Phoenix and 1 Oracle. Obviously, you can start denying these Overlords a little bit, although this one is going to get in. I mean, that one going all the way to the top right has dragged that Phoenix away, and now this one just heads into the main base for the 4 scouts. Gets to see the Twilight, gets to see the Robo, extra gates, and this is typically going to look towards being a little bit of a aggressive Archon drop. I mean, 4 gates extra is actually a little bit weird, because that's 5 gates in total. As the Templar Archives, you know, maybe with this I'd expect charge, and as I said on cue, charge starts. Because if you're going to go into more than 4 gates, you're wanting to warp in more than just the 2 Archons, in which case you may as well make those units useful. And so it's going to be charge as well, so this is quite an aggressive opener from Classic. You can absolutely, okay, as he adds on up to 8 gateways in total, you cannot now go back towards a 3rd base. For 6 gateways, you can apply some pressure and take a bit of a later 3rd. With 8 gateways, you're looking to attack, get in there, and pretty much end the game. Otherwise, you've committed to a lot of gateways and a lot of production, which isn't going to do much for you. So, RagnaroK now is going to be tested. How well can he identify what's going on? What is he looking for? Well, this third base coming down, you've got to try and keep scouting now, see if any probes actually start mining from it. It's very, very difficult as this Oracle comes in for a couple of drones. And this is a nice thing as well, by the way, that obviously RagnaroK hasn't taken too much damage from the Oracles before now, so he's not really behind going into this attack, so that's a good start from his Lings. Going to apply some pressure here. He's already building up roaches as well, so it kind of feels good for RagnaroK. And obviously forcing these units to come back home, and the Warp Prism especially, enforcing the high temperature warp in at home to morph the Archons. That's actually really bad, as Classic will defend his third base. So that's great and all, but again, he's generally trying to be aggressive here. It's not like he wants that third base to mine, so if he did have to cancel it, it's actually not the end of the world for him, right? Because he has no probes to put on it just yet anyways. He just warped in a round of Zealots and another Archon at home. So he's obviously looking to harass in the main base a little bit, run some units over towards the third, then bring that Warp Prism around towards the third base probably. It's one of those scenarios where you kind of have two choices of either being in two places at once with two different armies, or you just really mess up one army. Okay, Classic's committing quite hard to this army in the main. Looks like he probably wants to get those Archons off and then obviously start charging Zealots in. And these roaches of RagnaroK started moving here so long ago. He had such a good idea this was happening, and he is so ready for it. The Queens get the Warp Prism in the main, which do get the Zealot Warp-ins, and actually a force field on the ramp here could be very dangerous. I mean, these units over on the third base are likely to go down. He's kind of missed the force field there for a little while, as you do see the sentry now killed off. Please get the Archons over towards these drones. They are so low. Oh my god, there we go. 12, 25 drones killed, 28 drones killed. Oh, that's a massacre if I've ever seen one. The Zealots overrunning the Archons still in the main. Some Zealots will charge down towards the roaches on the natural. They're going to be cleaned up. In fairness, Classic has lost quite a lot here. Has to recall these last few units because, of course, lost the Warp Prism. His new Warp Prism now out. But yeah, this is the kind of damage you can build up from. You know, 29 workers killed, and now he's starting to build probes, and this is why you have that third nexus. Because you can fall back to it, you know, you can get your economy up and rolling there, you can get yourself into a position where you can really make use of it, and, you know, it's for these kind of scenarios where the Zerg isn't just going to roll over and die, and if you have to build a third base now and the Zerg can just drone freely for a little bit, you know, you're probably in a little bit of trouble, but having the third base is nice. Again, I said he didn't necessarily need to save the third base before, because he could have just instantly rebuilt it, right? Yes, he loses 100 minerals, but it wasn't the end of the world. He wasn't in a rush to have that third base, but it is still quite important to have it up for some transition potential. Otherwise, I'm not saying Classic wouldn't win this game. It does just make it that much easier for him to win this game, though. GG's, and that is going to be Classic picking up a game number 1 of this best of 3. Just very strong timing attack. Obviously, RagnaroK was kind of prepared, but then the big issue was he just sent too many roaches from the main to the third, and while that worked out initially, he then still needed to reinforce the main base, and that just didn't happen. That's where the majority of the damage got dealt, of course. Game 2 from Classic and RagnaroK coming up after this very quick transition. Thunderbird! I always want to scream the name of this map whenever we jump into game on it. I don't know what it is. I just feel like Thunderbird deserves to be screamed, you know. Top left-hand side, our red Zerg player from Chivo is RagnaroK, taking on the player who is up a game in the bottom right-hand side, Classic. In this best of 3. Anything is really possible on a Thunderbird, but it definitely does tend towards games which have more, you know, a bit more kind of juice in them, a bit more of a work account. Not so much kind of 8 gateways off 2 bases right away, although that's not an impossibility here. It's definitely less likely to be seen. Mostly it's just the temptation of taking that fast third nexus very greedily, while still also being very safe to take it. And that temptation definitely leads pros players to play, you know, put themselves in a position where they're typically going to play a bit greedier on this map, even though, you know, their 2 base lowlands can work. But yeah, it gives them a good position to play macro from, so we'll see how this one plays out as we set up here on Thunderbird game at number 2 of our best of 3. As you just see this probe wandering up to the top left-hand side, is going to be going up past the natural into the main base. Hatch, gas, and pool getting set to roll. A couple extra drones on the way as well. I'm just going to be seeing the spawning pool dropping down over to the side of the main base. So, again, that spawning pool up and run. Meanwhile, the Nexus is dropping in from Classic as well on the natural, so getting that set up to go here, as we do have the Cybercore dropping down as part of this wall off, and RagnaroK will continue to come forwards here with this Overlord, so handing that down toward the natural as an extra assimilator dropped in from Classic as well. And yeah, just building up here in the early stages of our game number 2. What do you talk about when you don't have Twitch chat to look at? There's been some good games going on lately. This is a really busy week for me if you guys are watching this close to the launch of the video. There's a lot of great StarCraft on my Twitch channel that is going on. Just a little bit of self-promotion, I guess, while we wait for this to build up. But yeah, there's loads of great tournaments. The WardiTV and the Lenovo Legion Invitational, China Team Championship, WardiTV Summer Championship. We've got a lot of stuff going on, so consider dropping by. Would love to see you guys as we go into the second game. It is a Stargate, the tech choice from Classic here. I tell you what, wouldn't it be a shame if Classic did not make it to BlizzCon? Especially when he's, absolutely earned his way there. Top, second place GSL, around a 4 GSL this year. Big run in Katowice, he's just one of the best. It'd be a real shame to be missing him. He's one of the best that's performing as well, and I think that's very important to distinguish in all of this. Innovation is also great, but has he performed this year? Well, he's had some great accomplishments, but in terms of consistency and, GSL, etc., just isn't there at all. So, while it's sad not to have innovation at BlizzCon, he definitely wasn't one of the stronger players this year, and that's just kind of a fact, as we do see. Probe production, pumping out from Classic here, is once again going to be that Phoenix first, and an Oracle now on the way out. RagnaroK also in with BlizzCon chances, by the way. He is one of the players who is, I believe, has to just perform very well in the Super Tournament. And when I say very well, I mean maybe even has to get top 2 or so, and other things have to happen for him to be able to get into the BlizzCon rankings. So it's pretty tough for him. It's kind of crazy how well set the top 8 are. In terms of people basically need to be winning tournaments to change up the rankings at this stage. But I guess that's just what happens when you have very consistent players. RagnaroK is 1,200 points behind stats, so he basically needs to win the tournament or get second place, I think, as well as stats/hero not performing very well. Which of course is, feels a bit unlikely. RagnaroK just had one of those very consistent years. Didn't do well in GSL Season 1, but Season 2 he did a bit better. Season 3 even better again. He performed in Katowice, he got into the GSL Super Tournament number 1. And it's just that combination of points that really builds up to give you kind of the chance of going to BlizzCon, but you need one bigger performance throughout the year typically to really get that. So there's going to be a Resonating Glaives being chrono boosted out here from Classic. He is going into 5-6 gateways a game, so it is pretty aggressive, but it is also with that third Nexus now dropping down. 6 gate Adepts, yeah, this is very interesting because typically with these Adepts, you're not going to have as much of a follow-up as you might with the Archon drop because you're not going to have many tech units in play, right? You're not going to have some Archons to help you defend, you're not going to have typically Immortal production already started because you're putting your money into the Adepts. And even the Adepts as gateway units don't really transition well later into the game. They are typically, they typically get used up, they typically find themselves in a position where they kind of die off, and if they are around for the later game, they just don't perform as well as Zealots would. So this investment into Resonating Glaives isn't exactly going to help him much going on. It's just really quite important that Classic gets damage done here. Now, he will have good tools to do that. He does have a Warp Prism building, and while that isn't out just yet, he will be able to obviously take some Adepts in a different direction with that. However, I feel like RagnaroK is so well prepared. Again, that Pneumatized Carapace gives him so much information, and he has seen everything pretty much in this base, so he knows exactly what's going on, and because of that, he's building a lot of... Well, I mean, he's just walled off here. What do you do if the guy's walled off? You actually just can't go through there. You actually just can't do anything about it. He's going to try and pick off the Evo Chamber and then shade by, but look how many roaches are already here. And these roaches kind of know it as well. They're going to move forwards and already picking up a couple of Adept kills. They will have to pull back, of course. Be safe against those Adepts, especially because right now they don't have roach speed. So it takes them a little while to respond. These Adepts shade up straight into Zerglings that were waiting for them, and, well, they're not getting the drone kills they're looking for, right? I mean, this is 2-3 drones, but you're talking about pretty much every single adept here. 2 adepts shade out, and they will make it to the 3rd base where they find 2 more drones. 3 more, actually, okay, so a couple more in the natural that come in as well. So there's a couple different adept sets which are doing damage, and he finally gets 12 workers, so finally Classic gets the damage which he was really hoping for there. That was expensive. 2,300 resources lost for the cost of, just because there's so many adepts that go down. Now RagnaroK chooses to drop down a Spire. His +1 missile attack is halfway done. He's getting more drones out. You can see Classic is a little worried about the counterattack, starting up a ton of shield batteries on the natural expansion ramp here. He's obviously got 1 Immortal out, a 2nd Chrono boosting, but yeah, you really need to make sure you hold on right now because you lost a lot of your army, and so your army count is way down on where it should be, and so investing into those shield batteries keeps you safe, but obviously it's also very expensive. Those are not cheap. I mean, 100 minerals a pop, this doesn't sound like much, but you consider this is 500 minerals, that's a lot of investment there. And of course, RagnaroK doesn't have to attack up into it, and those shield batteries are not super useful when it comes to defending Mutalisks. They're not really in a position to do much in the, healing in the mineral line at all, as you see Wingers and Roaches will really try and go up here. I mean, in fairness, the units on the left-hand side are not in range of the shield batteries, so you can understand RagnaroK's attempt to get something done there. As you will see Classic continue to gather up. His Temple Archives came up during all of this, and this gives him the ability to go into Storm. That obviously works very well, considering he's expecting Banelings, and there will be Banelings. It's just he doesn't know about the Mutalisks. He has no information at all. And one of the problems with that is that he just didn't have map vision at all. He's only just been warping in sentries, and because he's only just been warping in sentries, he doesn't have hallucination energy, so he's not been scouting with that. Finally, this Phoenix comes in, and we'll see the Spire completed. So Mutas are already popping out. Now this Phoenix actually becomes very important, because that's going to be a key part of the defense against the Mutalisks. You can see he starts up Phoenix number 2 already. And you probably want to go up to 4 or 5 Phoenix here to, just truly shut down these Mutas as easily and as quickly as possible. The more quickly you do that, the better it'll be for you. Love this contamination, though. Shuts down Phoenix number 3 from being on the production tab as, oh no, Phoenix number 1 found itself in some trouble there, but saved by the Mutalisks on what? 3 HP? That's pretty impressive. Nice save, real good save. Those Stalkers had the Phoenixes back in the Mutas. Oh, they find the Warp Prism as well. Instantly, Classic just recalls that, trying to get some Adepts with Glaives, of course, across the map to deal some damage, but will not be able to. Great catch by the Mutas, and that's just one of the bonuses of having Mutalisks. They are so good at chasing down Warp Prisms and shutting down Warp Prism play. Obviously, though, they can't do that if the Mutalisks are already across the map, if the Mutalisks are in a position where they are, poking around and trying to, get damage done, and the Warp Prism shows up at home. Those Mutas have to fly all the way back, so there's definitely chances to deal damage with the Warp Prism, but obviously in this case the Mutas got on top of it quickly, shut that down, and that's really nice, because obviously at this stage RagnaroK has finally just about hit his worker count. He doesn't really want to go back to building workers because of any losses. He wants to sit on 81 drones, mass up Link Bay and Ravager, probably mostly, and he's going up into a hive at the same time as well, so at this stage I would imagine he'd probably go straight towards the Greater Spire as he finishes that hive. He's in a position where the Spire is already completed. He's going to have a good aggressive army on the ground that should be able to hold strong. And if Classic, the problem is, I don't think RagnaroK could come across the map and kill Classic because he's got High Templar, he's got Storms. Does he have High Templar? He's got 2 warping in, but he actually only has 2. Did he cancel Storm? He did! Wow! That's very interesting. So he cancels Storm, realizing that it's obviously Mutalisks here, and thinking that, okay, if it's Mutas, I don't want to get Storm. Instead, I'm gonna... I don't know, actually, because Storm's still very useful as a follow-up, so maybe he cancelled it. I mean, obviously he didn't intend to get it again, because he hasn't made any High Temple yet. These Phoenix, okay, they do catch these Mutas, and that's obviously great. When the Phoenix goes down. And the Phoenix can now pick up a couple of drones or so. Yeah, I mean, there's just no Storm here, so... obviously just decides that he doesn't need it. Maybe because there's no Hydras, and that might be his reasoning. He just feels he can deal with the Link Bane without a Storm if there's no Hydras involved. And these Banes are crashing through pretty well. There's a couple of gaps in the force fields, and that's causing problems already as these Banes will continue forwards. RagnaroK is on a ridiculous amount of army supply. The Phoenix are coming back to lift up a couple of Ravagers, which is actually not a bad idea, as we're going to be seeing, well, this entire 4th base is going to be taken down. I mean, Classic has basically fallen back to his shield batteries here as Banes go up that ramp to have a look to see if there's anything they can do. Answer is not really. Now RagnaroK does just start up that Greater Spire. At this stage, Classic is not going to be able to do anything to punish that Greater Spire, right? So if he can't punish that Greater Spy, he's going to have to deal with Broodlords. And obviously, off losing the 4th base, he's not going to have the Fleet Beacon and the Tempest to really deal with those Broodlords properly either. And, well, I mean, I'm talking about Greater Spy and Broodlords as though it's going to finish, but at this point in time, it doesn't really seem like it. RagnaroK will back off. I guess those shield batteries are a little bit frustrating. We will see some Lings running towards the 3rd base as well for quite a few worker kills. 5, 6 probes killed off here already. So it's able to pick off even more Zerglings as the Ling Ravager Roach Army from RagnaroK hanging out over on the left side. And the Phoenix is going to lift up that Ravager to take it down. Ravagers morphing in. The Phoenix pushed away. Greater Spire is about to finish up here. Adrenal Glands on the way out as well. And plus 3 missile attack coming in on the Evo Chamber also. Getting that set up. There's 2 more Mortals, 3 more Archons coming into production here. And those Archons are going to get finished up. So 2 Immortals on the way out here. Going to be Chrono boosted, so getting those up and ready to roll. Adrenal Glands, as mentioned before, will give you that kind of extra little bump on the Zerglings. And, well, I mean, we're watching a game that's somewhat decided here, honestly. I mean, RagnaroK's army supply is pretty close to Classic. Obviously, he's got a huge bank. He's about to have Broodlords. And that's the problem for Classic. Like, he's just not no way to deal with this follow-up of the Zerg. And he's got no way to continue in this game. He still doesn't even have a 4th base rebuild. Right, so he's missing so much of the economy he would need to truly deal with this. I mean, Balins roll in and the Zealots charge into them. The Bane's going to go pop some barriers and get some Archons a little bit lower. Lings start streaming in, and while this probably isn't the best fight in the world, it's not exactly a bad fight because you are cleaning up tech units, you are shutting some stuff down. I mean, it was actually a pretty messy fight from RagnaroK, all things considered. Definitely wasn't efficient, but in a scenario where you just have so much more anyways, it kind of doesn't matter. Nice Corrosive Bars take down the Immortal. Classic is trying to harass across the map. This War Prism did end up losing one of the Immortals though, so only has one left on very low HP. He'll chase down a couple of Ravagers, but I mean, Lings are in production. Banes will start morphing in again. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised RagnaroK went for that attack because now he's had to rebuild Lings and Banes, where he would have preferred to have been building Broodlords already and putting all the money towards Broods. So he's kind of hurt his own Broodlords count, and it's not like by killing the Immortals and the Archons he makes the Broodlords more effective, because these Archons and, you know, Mortals, I mean, the Archons aren't going to get on top of the Broodlords, right? Because, well, there's going to be too many Broods, and there wasn't that many Archons, so I can't really agree with that previous fight from RagnaroK. While it doesn't really matter, it does make his own life more difficult, right? So maybe he just thought he could get a GG out of Classic. Classic would realize, oh, you know, I'm losing all my units. You know, this is kind of over, but I mean, that kind of fight actually gives Classic some hope. He's like, well, you know what, if you keep wasting units like that, maybe I can trade well enough. Until then, of course, you see the Broodlords and you're like, okay, well, you did tech up. You're not just throwing units at me consistently and pointlessly. And once you realize that, you know, this game really does kind of come to a conclusion, more or less, is it's going to be seeing the Overseer going towards the main. Just moving around, having a scout, obviously looking to see, are there Tempests on the way up? Answer, no. Okay, Broodlords are going to start firing, and, well, Classic's going to type out GG, giving RagnaroK the second game of this best of 3. So RagnaroK's able to pick up the second map here, and is going to put himself in a position where tied up. He can obviously take this serious. I mean, this time around, a great defense against the Adepts, and from there it was definitely troubling from Classic, and, you know, the follow-up attack pretty much sealed the deal. The Broodlords were a nice finishing touch, icing on the cake, but other than that, Classic, I feel, just needs to stay away from these. It's weird, right? Because the aggressive build worked well for in Game 1, but not great in Game 2. The problem is RagnaroK keeps opening pneumatized carapace, and as long as he keeps opening pneumatized carapace, Classic is going to be in trouble, I think. Because if you try and be aggressive against pneumatized, your opponent knows what's going on. RagnaroK saw everything that was coming his way. GG's. RagnaroK takes Game 2, and, I mean, there's not much more to say. I just hope Classic doesn't try and play as aggressively if his opponent commits into pneumatized again. So, we'll see in Game 3. We come into Triton for map number 3, and in the bottom right-hand side from Chivo, our blue Zerg player is RagnaroK, who has been, again, like I said earlier in the cast, killing it this year up against the red Protoss player Classic, representing Makers. Hope you guys have been enjoying all of these YouTube exclusive casts. The YouTube channel's doing pretty well, and so I'm a bit motivated to keep these up. As always, I just ask you guys in the comments to let me know any series you guys would, like to see, or any players you're interested in seeing. Let me know how much you enjoy these YouTube casts versus the usual casts as well, whether it makes you watch more and stuff, because I try and pick up on some info here, figure out how much we want to do with YouTube. Obviously want to do a fair bit with it, and at the moment I'm finding myself in a good little rhythm of waking up, getting a YouTube cast done, and then streaming, so we'll see if we can keep that going as we get into this Game 3. And we'll talk about the game, but just don't forget to subscribe and click the button. Click the bell button, get notifications! It's great, I promise you. My throat is dying out of me a little bit. I'm going to mute for like 1 second and cough, and then we'll talk about the game. Beautiful. Alright, so game number 3, and this probe is already faking out a bit of a pylon over in the main base. So pylon is, well, I mean, it's a fake out, right? There's no real commitment to this here. Cancels it, and for 25 minerals, he has forced 4 drones to be off the line for a pretty significant amount of time. So, you know, Classic, he'll be quite happy with that. It does delay his Nexus by 100 minerals or so initially, and then you cancel, you get the money back. So, yeah, altogether here, it's, altogether, it's a job well done. Do you see? There's a couple of workers working away on the extractor. Nexus is on the way up from Classic here in the natural as well, so really pretty standard stuff, obviously. Classic trying to be a little bit fake outy in the start, but again, I'm really intrigued to see what Classic does in this game number 3. I'd really love to see Classic just take a go and play in the macro, because actually I feel like RagnaroK losing that game 1 was just more of a, he kind of knew what was coming, he just sort of messed up by positioning his units a bit incorrectly, right? And if that's what you've got to rely on as Classic, I don't feel like those aggressive attacks are working out for you, really. So Overlord hanging around on the bottom side. We will see a probe from Classic going to head up the left. Third hatchery from RagnaroK going to be starting up here as well. Get this underway in the early stages. We do have the Stargate from Classic. I mean, it's just going to give him the chance to do anything, right? It's going to clean out these Overlords. And I tell you what, no pneumatized carapace yet from RagnaroK. He does spend his first 100 gas on Ling speed, so maybe he's going to change it up. He is now just on 1 worker in gas, so it's unlikely, I would say, that he actually commits to a pneumatized carapace super early, at least. If he does get it, it's going to be that little bit later. Ooh. Okay. Oh, sorry, it is going to be Phoenix. For some reason, I felt like the Phoenix had just finished and the second one started, but it was the Stargate finishing. Getting myself excited over nothing. Yeah. Well, the Overlord from RagnaroK will go for a little bit of a poke in. Obviously, if it's not a Stargate, then he'll see something. If it is a Stargate, he's going to die anyways, so pretty difficult time to come forwards here. And, well, there is the Phoenix to say, hey, buddy, high five. And Overlord's like, no, buddy, I'm not high fiving you. He turns around, gets stabbed in the back. He's like, god damn it, Phoenix is so annoying. And they are, honestly. They really are. Couple of robes on the way out from Classic as well. Robo Facility is on the way now. So, again, nice fast Robo as we saw in game number 1. Not wasting too much time with this at all. Just getting himself into a position where he's going to be very quickly able to say, okay, Robo up. I can go in towards my transition here. Twilight Cancel. So, yeah, he's 1 Oracle. He's just going to go straight in towards the Archon drop and put himself into that aggressive stance again. Now, here's my question, right? Because it's an Archon drop, it doesn't have to be 6 gateways in charge as well. It can just be 4 gateways and you take a 3rd Nexus and, you know, you play that macro game. And for now, it looks like that'll be what it is. Only 4 gateways added in. This time, last time, we already saw the extra gateway being added on. As the Twilight finishes, it should just be straight to a Temple Archives rather than any sort of... Well, we obviously went to Temple Archives anyways before when he went charged, but it should be just the Temple Archives with no charge attached just yet. No, it is going to be charged. Oh, okay, so it's kind of the same thing but of less gateways, so it's still less committed, right? But he still wants to get the charge to apply that little bit of extra pressure, so while it's only going to be 4 gates, he can still add on 4 Zealots, and they can still do a little bit, but it's unlikely they're going to be as overwhelming as they were before. And obviously, again, it does give you the 300 extra minerals from not building the gates to get this Nexus down sooner, and the 200 extra minerals per warping cycle you're not spending on the Zealots as well, so it does make that Nexus come down faster, and it does suggest, as we see more probes being built, that we will see the probe count increasing a little bit here and going towards that 3rd Nexus, so That's why we're out here from Classic, and it's a nice way to switch it up a little bit, because if you can force RagnaroK to overreact, especially with no Pneumatized Carapace to scout, if he's like, oh, well, this looks very similar to the last game, oh my god, this charge as well, yeah, then obviously right away you're in a position where RagnaroK might overreact, he might overbuild, and that could improve your position as Classic as well. Now we do see the Forge coming down, so that is the transition confirmed, basically. And the fact that this is going to be continued pro production. There's not even many Zerglings on the map from RagnaroK, actually. He doesn't have them out over here, kind of trying to pick off that third or delayed or denied at all. So we see these couple of Roaches already in some trouble, and that Overseer hanging out overhead as well is going to be taken down in the next few moments. As you do just see the Roach is going to fall, not fall, actually. Phoenix gets taken down, lost an Archon. This wasn't exactly pretty from Classic in any way, shape, or form, so not the best of starts here from our Protoss players. He's going to end up coming up this left-hand side, and we'll have to just re-warp in another couple of high tempo, I guess, because generally you would want to keep up this Archon drop pressure. So it's a good start from RagnaroK here, able to turn that around, and now we see Roach speed coming up on the Roach Roaring. The Roaches continue to gather themselves together as well. And that robotics facility on the natural expansion Zealots running in, picking off a Zergling. The War Prism down the left with the two Archons inside is going to be jumping straight on that Overseer. Overseer will die off there, and again the Oracle now from Classic heading down in toward the main base. Creep Tumor is being picked away out here, third Creep Tumor, and a Roach going down actually, so that Roach finally does fall. Well, Oracle going to try and stay toward the main, but, well, RagnaroK is paying plenty of attention, and I love this. Didn't even pull the whole mineral line, only pulled what he had to. Really minimizes the kind of damage being done here by this Protoss player, which obviously you're kind of hoping to, at the very least, force the mineral line away. At most, you know, maybe you entire your stasis a good few drones. That was best case scenario for RagnaroK Classic. Still not finding any opportunities as Blink +1 on the way up now. It's actually up against Swarmhost. Now, does he have a scout on that? Does he have a read? Infestation Pit is there, so yeah, he does have a bit of a read. Stalkers, they're not a terrible choice if they can find the Swarmhost once they've fired, and the Locust out of the way, then they can obviously blink on that and make something happen there. I wouldn't say it's the typical choice to go into once you're up against Swarmhost though, so we shall see. Right now, the full Archons coming out to the left. The first Nidus will come up, so the Swarmhost will be able to Nidus, get those Locusts into the main. Back into the Nidus they go, and actually they're going to head down towards the natural expansion, where they'll hit the mineral line. Another Nidus now coming up on the right side. The Roach is looking to press forwards as well. They're getting the Locust, I guess, actually, you know, Classic just didn't really see this at all until just now, and, well, there goes the third Nexus. Well, that, sorry, the third Nexus, the natural expansion. That's very painful, losing the natural, losing an entire base here right away. That's going to really suck as you see he's pushing down the right, going to get this Nidus. But now already you're missing gas that you would usually want to keep up your tech army and your tech units. And this becomes very difficult. These Roaches and Ravagers will not want to attack in without the Locusts. They're going to be very strong if the Locusts are doing the tank and the Locusts are taking the damage. They're free units. The Roach Ravager can support them and then just pull back. I mean, Classic doesn't quite know where to go. The Locusts are just going to start diving to the third. The Sabi's going to come in. This is where the Roach Ravager should make a move as well, as they will dive for the third base, and they will start to hit it down. I mean, again, the main army is preoccupied with dealing with the Roaches, so they don't get many Locust kills, and the third Nexus falls down too. Well, Classic has just not done much early game, and because of that, RagnaroK has then found a good couple positions. Classic out of location at this point. You lose the natural, you lose the third. You're missing so much, man. How on earth do you continue on in this game? Explosive Bars will drop down, try and chase the Sony back. Drops the Nidus, which will actually distract some of those Stalkers. Ravager's going to turn to fight. Actually is. Ooh, Archon gets piled down. He's got more Mortals in here, but honestly, there's just not the buffer you need. The Zerglings are very good in this scenario. There's no Zealots in place. The Zerglings really do actually excel more than you'd think. Ravager continue press forwards. A couple more Stalkers going down. There goes the Immortal. And that is GG. RagnaroK takes game 3 of this series. And Classic. It just feels like, I mean, this was more of an attempt to play macro, right? But he really didn't have a good response to the Swarmhost at all. He wasn't in the right sort of positions. And RagnaroK just kind of wins the game. I mean, obviously, Classic didn't do great initially. He lost one of his first Archons. He had to warp in another there. And little things like that will make it more difficult to hold this, but you can't just let those locusts fly into your natural and kill the Nexus without doing anything about it, right? Because then the problem is you have nothing to follow up with. You know, you've taken so much damage, the next attack's going to do more and more. You should be able to hold your first Nexus, and that was just mistake by Classic, and without holding that, that was a bit too much. So, GG's. RagnaroK is going to take this game number 3 and the series, this best of 3, to wrap us up for today's cast. Hope you guys did enjoy. Again, I've said a lot today, but do subscribe, like, and comment. And especially love to hear what you guys' thoughts on what we should be casting. And yeah, thank you so much for dropping by and checking out the YouTube channel as always, guys. I really do appreciate it. And glad that you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys next time. Probably do another YouTube only cast tomorrow. And kind of go from there. So we'll go from there. Sorry, my Skype just popped up. God damn it, Skype, I hate you. Why aren't you muted? Alright guys, see you tomorrow. Sorry, that took my thoughts away. I'll just end this right now.